Ask Mike, brought to you by the Stadium Shop on Razorback in Fayetteville.
Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome into another edition of Ask Mike. Courtney Mims alongside Mike Irwin. Mike, I've looked at some of the questions. We've got some good ones this week, so let's jump right into it. Razor Alex 88 asks, I'm not questioning the hire of Marcus Woodson, but what made me really curious was how a portion, not sure how big to be honest, of Florida State fans were glad that we took him off their hands. I don't quite understand that.
Okay, I had to go to our resident Florida State expert on this.
Yes, Florida State alum.
What would I know about Florida State? I don't pay any attention to them. And Alyssa Orange tells me that if you go look, Florida State was had the number one pass defense in the ACC. So, whoa, I don't think there are very many Florida State fans that went, oh yeah, let's get rid of this guy. That would be rather stupid. So the obvious explanation, if you read anything like that, was fans do that sometimes. A coach leaves your school and goes to what they feel like is a lesser move or a lateral move, and they're like, they're mad about it, so they badmouth the guy. But that's probably just a few fans. Now, the real question for me is, why would he leave? That's the issue. And again, I knew just from what came out at the time that he had worked with Travis Williams, Arkansas's new defensive coordinator. Yeah. They'd both worked together at Auburn and had the same defensive coordinator, co-coordinator relationship when they were there. So here's a guy he's worked with before, and then Alyssa was able to talk to somebody in the media there that said, look, he's probably going to be more comfortable there. He likes that scheme better, and it will be better for him. Mm-hmm. So all of that is understandable, explainable, or whatever. But the overall thing I take away from that is what a great hire it was by Sam Pittman to get both of those guys, honestly. But you're getting you're going from Razorback fans complained for two years solid, and especially this year about that secondary, ignoring the fact that they had tremendous number of injuries. But now you're bringing in a guy that had the number one pass defense in the ACC. So Arkansas fans should be loving this. Quite frankly, a lot of them are still don't seem to get this, and I don't understand why. But the proof is in whatever results he has. We'll have to wait and see. But all of the complaints, what were the complaints about not enough, the three-man pass rush stinks, or the three-man front stinks, you're not putting enough pressure on the quarterback, too many guys back in coverage, and they're still getting beat? Well, this is supposedly the opposite of that, so we'll see. Yeah,
it sounds like it's going to work out just fine for Arkansas. Lost in Swine says, I'll try again, probably because he's asked this question before. Do you know more about the cancer in the locker room? Was it just the strength and conditioning coach, or was there more going on?
You know, this is one of those things where, and I always want to make a distinction between what the rumors are and what you would actually know. So here's what we were actually told. Sam Pittman said he made a change in the strength and conditioning coach because he felt like Arkansas was not physical enough. They weren't getting out of that room what they felt like they should get out of. And that's all he said. He didn't make any statement about the guy was a cancer in the room or any of that stuff. That came up from other people. Now, are they right? I don't know. I'm not over there, not on the team. If you go to Hogville right now, there's a whole bunch of threads that deal with this. There's one guy on there that claims that he knows these coaches, he talks to staff members, he knows this, he knows that. Problem is, we don't know him. Yeah. So how do you know? You could say that and it be true. It might not be true. But according to these guys, some things were being said to the players which fostered bad attitude among some players. And that is why some of these players left anyway, because they had a bad attitude about the head coach in particular. He's too stubborn. Sam Pittman doesn't listen, blah, 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 blah. You know, if you believe these
rumors,
people.
Yeah,
if you believe the rumors. And now let's go to the Dow Loggins rumors, which were originally, let's go with what we know, which is the guy was a tight ends coach, not a natural tight ends coach. He was a quarterback in college. Didn't play any, but I'm telling you, the guy was smart. When Matt Jones was the starter here, and they still had those summer workouts, which were totally volunteer workouts, coaches couldn't be there. They had to go off campus, and they would go over to Fayetteville High School and run 7-on-7 drills, but they were running Arkansas's offense. And guess who was running the offense? Dow Loggins. Yeah. He was a backup quarterback, but he would go over there with all this stuff they were supposed to be doing, and he would be directing them. I saw him talking to Matt all the time. So he was kind of a coach when he was still a player here. And he's been an offensive coordinator in the NFL. He came back here, he said, because he wanted to come back to this level, but he was a tight ends coach, which is not his natural position to coach. And he got a chance to go be an offensive coordinator. And that's what we know for sure. He went there because of that. Now what you've got, the rumors are that, yeah, but after he got that job, even maybe before he knew that he was going to tell anybody about it or whatever, he was trying to recruit guys to go there. The only one person I know that left this staff or left this roster to go there was Trey Knox.
Yeah.
So Arkansas lost one player because of that. Now, supposedly Sam Pittman's mad at him, and that's why he didn't bring him back here when he had a chance to do that when after Kendall Briles left. I don't believe that for a second. It looks like to me that Sam Pittman all along knew when he started dealing with this whole Kendall Briles maybe leaving thing that he decided pretty early on he wanted Enos. And we know he'd worked with Enos before. They'd been very successful. All of this makes total sense.
Yeah.
So this is what we know. Now, do we know this other stuff? And supposedly, again, rumors that Dow Loggins didn't agree with Kendall Briles' play calling, went around telling players that. That got them all blah, 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 blah. And the next thing you know, you've got rumors and problems behind the scenes. Here's what I know. I worked for 5 different television stations. I also worked in other jobs going through college. Anybody that's ever worked for a company that employs more than about 20 people will tell you that at various times there are always people going around saying stuff. Yeah, this is bad. Yeah, I don't know why that person made that decision. Boy, this is a dumb idea. No. That happens all the time. It's not limited to Arkansas. So if there were people saying stuff behind the scenes this year when they started losing games, I would be shocked if that didn't happen because it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
Is that why they had a problem? No, not in my opinion. I've said it over and over again. I will continue to say it. This team lost games because their quarterback got hurt. He played in a game in which he was not effective, the Liberty game. He hadn't worked out in 2 weeks, wasn't prepared for the game, didn't play well until the late, maybe second half, late third quarter, fourth quarter, he came back. But he was rusty. Yeah. And then there were 2 other games they lost where he didn't play at all. That had a huge impact on this season. And then this whole thing that everyone seems to want to ignore as if that pass defense was just bad because it was bad and the coaches didn't know what they were doing and it was terrible. And you just ignore the fact that you had at one time 6 different guys in the secondary that were injured.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why they lost games, in my opinion, not because somebody was talking behind the scenes and going, I don't like this play calling and I think Kendall Briles doesn't know what he's doing. Well, I'm going to transfer then. Stuff like that happens all the time.
It does. And
so you believe whatever you want.
Yeah, at every single program.
What I offer you is what I know, but I've also explained what's circulating behind the scenes. And if you want to believe the circulating behind the scenes stuff, you can believe it.
Yeah, if you want to believe the rumors,
and I do think
them.
some of that went on. I don't think that's why they lost games.
Okay, well, there you go. Well, Swine American says, another football question here. Many of us heart-driven Razorback fans see Dan Enos as a retread with an offensive system that wasn't special when he came here the first time. Are you optimistic about Enos? If so, why? We've talked about this last week.
Yeah, I'm very optimistic, and it's what I said before, because you've got to have a head coach that's comfortable with the guy that's his offensive coordinator. They've worked together before. They know what to expect of each other. I think you're going to see them more on the same page. I think you're going to see less of Sam Pittman coming out of the locker room at a halftime of a game and telling a sideline reporter that the play calling wasn't what he wanted and they're going to do this in the second half, which we saw sometimes under Kendall Briles. So I think you're going to see less of that. I think they both understand what they want. I also think there are going to be small changes. I don't think it's going to be major, but I do think they're going to probably throw it a little bit more. There's going to be a little more emphasis on, instead of the RPO stuff that was being done, and I'm not saying they won't do any of that, but I think that there'll be more emphasis on KJ Jefferson being able to read a defense and see who's open, who's your primary receiver, who's your secondary receiver, and I think you're going to see a real emphasis on the third and short passing situations, because that's where he really struggled. So if it's 3rd and 8, you need to complete a 12-yard pass. Can you throw and complete a 12-yard pass? Because you've just completed 2 25-yard passes. Why can't you complete the shorter passes? Because KJ's always struggled with that. I don't know why, but that's one of the things that Dan Enos has to figure out. Why is that going on? And I think that's what he'll do.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before. We think he can develop KJ into a better passer and do all of those things.
I know what he did to Brandon Allen, who was a decent quarterback but had never done anything special, and came in and got him into the NFL where he still is. He's not a starter, but he's been in the NFL for a long time. He's a guy that's good enough that they feel competent enough that if the starter gets hurt, he can still go in and play and not look like a goober. So, you know, I saw what happened in 2015 when Dan Enos came in here. They struggled early in the year because you've got a new coordinator. They're kind of feeling things out. But I know that what shocked me, and Alyssa was there, we were both down on the field at the time. They went to Knoxville in front of almost 100,000 people, and they were down 14-0 about 2 minutes into that game. And I turned to Alyssa and said, they are dead in the water. This is going to be a blowout. And I never have been more wrong in my life. Dan Enos was calm. He started calling the right plays. They took the ball the third time and went right down the field and scored and won that football game. I saw them totally turn that thing around. He turned Brandon Allen into, Brandon had been jittery. I mean, he had a tough time. He had a shoulder separation the year before, played the whole year with a numb shoulder where they're having to shoot him up. He played his freshman year, you know, had to go up against Alabama, and they sacked him like 7 or 8 times in a game. He'd had a rough 2 years. And I'm telling you, Dan Enos came in and instilled him with confidence, and when that season was over, he was a different quarterback. I saw that happen. You're not going to convince me, unless it happens and I see it, that he's not the right guy for the job.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But we still have to, you know, we don't know.
He's got to prove it. He's got to go out there and, you know, prove that he is the right guy for the job. WV Hog Fans asks, has the U of A ever considered retiring the number 5 jersey to honor Darren McFadden?
Here's the problem with trying to retire a football jersey. You've only got so many. I've never seen a football number. I don't know if you have. I've never seen a jersey number over 100, right?
Yeah, no.
You don't have 105 or 122.
No.
It's 99
I've never seen
0.
that.
Anything from 0 to 99, right?
Yeah, I've never seen.
Okay,
yeah.
So you've only got a certain number of jerseys anyway. And this is why you see there might be a number 5 on offense, but there's also a number 5 on defense
yeah.
because you're short of numbers. So if you start going around retiring numbers, it's not going to take you very long till you're out of space. There are 2 football jerseys that are retired. One belongs to Clyde Scott, who played in the post-war era after World War II. He was an Olympic silver medalist winner from Arkansas, and Smackover, Arkansas, and his number is retired. And then Brandon Burlsworth, for obvious reasons, after he was killed tragically. Oh. Those are the 2 numbers that are retired. What I'm told is there is an anticipation that at some point Darren McFadden's number will be honored. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. Maybe they're going to have a ring of honor. Maybe
yeah, they might do. Yeah.
Maybe they have that in the future plans to have, you know, numbers up there of great players.
I love that.
So I'm not sure, or maybe they're going to do a special flag or something because we see that in Bud Walton.
Yeah.
Corliss Williamson's number's up there, but it's not retired.
No, yeah.
The only retired number in basketball is Sidney Moncrief's. Yeah. So the rest of them, they may hang a number up there, but it's not retired. So what I'm told is with McFadden, at some point in the future, it's going to be honored but not retired because it's not smart to take. And you can ask yourself this too. Let's say there's the number 3 running back in the country is considering Arkansas, and he's considering Alabama, and he's considering Georgia. And he comes in here and he goes, well, I'm number 5 in high school, and I want that number. You're going to say, I'm sorry, you can't have it because it's DMAC's number and it's retired. You know, that doesn't work.
Yeah, you're putting a number off the table for future players who may want to wear that number to honor that player. Like,
that's right.
You know, you saw Rocket Sanders this year say, you know, it's an honor to wear the number. So I think I think it's awesome that it's still in use. Dr. Strangepork says, when talking about Razorback recruiting, the phrase, it is hard to recruit to Fayetteville is how I used to describe it. I always wonder why they say that when there are a lot of colleges located in some pretty awful places. It is really hard. Is it really hard, or is it just negative recruiting?
You know, here's the other thing they always say. If you can get somebody on campus here, then they see the difference. I do think there are some coaches out there that use negative recruiting if they're going up against Arkansas and they say, you don't want to go up there. There's a bunch of hillbillies. It's out in the woods. There's nothing around there. It's just blah, 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 you know. And there are people that are ignorant enough about geography to think that.
Yeah.
And we know that players have come in here on recruiting visits and made the statement before they left, I can't believe this. I thought it was going to be this, and it's not.
Just this past weekend they were saying that.
So this happens all the time. I will also say this. There are more guys than I can remember who came in here from out of state, other states, doesn't just have to be Texas, but guys who have come in from other states, took one look at this place, decided they wanted to stay, committed, signed, played here for 4 years, and then stayed here after their playing careers were over. Because it is the kind of place where people come in and go, I like living here.
Yeah.
So, no, that itself is not something that's going to keep you from being able to recruit as long as you can get somebody in here. What I do think is a problem is the isolated nature of the state and the fact that you don't have a major city anywhere around here. You don't have an Atlanta. I mean, look how far Kansas City is away, St. Louis. I mean, Oklahoma City's pretty close, but that's kind of an OU thing. So then you got to go all the way down to Dallas. That's in Texas. That's pretty far away, Houston, whatever. Arkansas does not have major metropolitan areas. You've got two basic areas, you know, that have got 5,750,000 people in the whole standard metropolitan area, but that's not big compared to some of these other SEC schools. So I think you've got a smaller recruiting footprint, and I think you have to go outside the state and go farther away from your recruiting base in order to bring people in here. You have to go to Florida. You have to try to go to Georgia. You have to try to go up to farther in Missouri, up to towards St. Louis. You have to go into some of these places. And you take advantage of this based on the coaches you have. Now you've got a tight ends coach, a new tight ends coach who was coached at Stanford for 8 or 9 years. Okay, he's got ties out in California. Yeah. So I promise you're going to see more kids being brought in here on recruiting visits from the Southern California area because of that. But that's what Arkansas traditionally has had to do. Bring in a coach that has a tie to another area and help him recruit that area, because you can't do what LSU does. And I'm not saying LSU only recruits kids from Louisiana, but they can fill their roster with Louisiana kids and not be hurt.
Yeah.
If you're Alabama, you can recruit Alabama, but you're also right there next to Georgia. You're close to Florida. You know, you're close to Tennessee. There are all these advantages you have because of your geography, and Arkansas's geography is not good, right? That's the one issue that they have.
Yeah, but it's interesting to see that when you can get them to come, everyone is so impressed with the university, with the area. Yeah. You just have to get them in first,
I still think they need to do something about how you get from the airport to here. Because
you have said that before.
You land at the airport and everything looks normal, and then you drive out to that intersection and turn left, and you're going ding, 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 ding. It's like Deliverance all over again. You're like, uh-oh, there's going to be some guy that runs out from behind a tree and shoots me with a bow and arrow or something, and no, it's just a little strange. I think eventually they'll build like a 4-lane all the way up to.
Yeah, something more highway-ish to get you to the airport
you here
and
faster,
back.
and you don't feel like you've gone off into the woods as soon as you get out.
You see the hay bales, and you're like, where am I?
That's right, and little scary curves.
The scary curves are at night, you're like, where am I? Someone is going to pop out at you. PG Hog 1 says, next year in football, our first 3 conference games are on the road. I know 2020 was a COVID schedule, but why could the SEC not schedule our game with Florida in Fayetteville this year instead of having to go there again? Can't Hunter Yurachek address his concerns on this? Yes.
Yeah, I think Yurachek's done about as much as an AD can do to influence the conference office. I think he's got a good relationship with Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner. I've talked before, there's rumors that if Sankey leaves, that Yurachek is in line to get that job. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I hear. So they've got a guy, you know, we got an AD that at least has the ear of the conference commissioner, and I think that's why you had that call overturned in the Liberty Bowl. I think that's why we had an explanation of this bad call in a basketball game not too long ago. So there's your Hunter Yurachek influence. The scheduling, look, I'll just tell you that this is what they said from day one on that COVID schedule. That had nothing to do with anything. That was just like an extra thing they threw in there. So once that COVID year was over, you went back to whatever it was supposed to be. And Arkansas was supposed to go to Florida. It was their turn to go to Florida, and that's what they're going to do. Even though they threw that in for a COVID year, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
So that is all out of there. As to why the schedule seems to always be kind of wacky, like, you know, it's more in basketball than anything else. You know, basketball always seems to open up with more road games and tougher road games early. But, you know, it hasn't worked out too bad the last few years, has it? I mean, you may start off rough, but then you finish strong. So I don't know. I did make a statement on Ask Mike last week, and I'll stand by it, that the only big thing Arkansas has gotten out of being in the SEC is money. But it is a lot of money, and they're not going to leave the conference. It's the prestige of being in the best conference in football, and in basketball it's getting better and better. And it's probably the best track conference. There's several other sports. Baseball, it's the best baseball conference. So there's a prestige in that. But you are not in this conference what you were in the Southwest Conference, not even close. You're like, oh yeah, there are those guys over there on the real far western edge up there. Okay, they're kind of up there with Missouri. Yeah, hey Missouri, hey Arkansas. Yeah, all right, whatever.
Hi, how are you guys?
Yeah. And I think they get treated that way on the SEC network, and I think that is due to TV homes. You're running the SEC network. You want a ratings audience. You don't get a lot of ratings by doing stuff that runs just in Arkansas. The number of TV homes in this state does not compare to some of the other states. So I think that's just a natural thing. Doesn't mean they're ignored, but they're not going to get the same kind of coverage unless you happen to have a team that's really good at any given time. I think if basketball had been dominant all year long last year, they would have gotten more coverage. All of a sudden, they just got real good at the end of the year, and then you looked around, there were no SEC teams left in the NCAA tournament. Here's Arkansas carrying the banner for your entire league, but it was like for a 2-week period, okay, yeah, you're really cool. But then you went back to, okay, we got to cover everything again now when the new season starts. So the one way I think you would get around that is if you did what Arkansas baseball did 2 years ago. You started off #1 within 2 weeks of the start of the season, and you stayed that way all year.
Kept it going.
They got a lot of coverage that year.
Yeah, they did. They definitely. I watched them all the time that year. They were on. They were hyping them up. They were putting promos out for Arkansas. It was definitely a big year for them. And you're right. You just got to be good to get that TV coverage. Arkansas asks, have you ever met the writer Kent Smith? Is he a real person? Thanks. That's an interesting question.
I don't think that I've met him, but I meet a lot of people and forget that I meet them. You can tell, Alyssa can tell you that. I say, hey, how you doing? And then about a week later, I don't remember.
Yeah, you can remember faces, not names sometimes.
I remember a lot of faces, and I've explained that before. I've had to memorize names of rosters in football, basketball, baseball, 47 years. There's only so much, space in your brain, computer space or whatever. What do they call that?
Your space in your brain.
There's a name for that. The space that's in a computer. What is it?
The hard drive.
The gigabyte, whatever.
Your
number of gigabytes it holds.
Your hard drive, like your computer hard drive.
But the amount of space it holds. There's a term for that. There's only so much of it. Huh?
Wait, our IT guy walked in. What's the term for the space on a computer? The amount of space
that it holds.
Like your RAM?
RAM.
Like your RAM? RAM or hard drive? I said a hard drive.
Yeah, well, anyway.
He said, it's your hard drive. All right, Mike, there you go.
There's only so much space in my brain, and I've passed it a long time ago, so it just kicks stuff out when it goes in. If I meet somebody, it's like, okay, and then 2 days later, I don't remember the name.
Throws them out.
Might remember the face. So I don't think I've met him, but I may have. But I do know, because I do research for this, that he works for Andy Hawkins, who I do know, who covers Arkansas, and he owns a website that is fronted or formatted or whatever you call it. Sports Illustrated
I've seen that.
Basically distributes it, but he owns it. And this guy works for Andy Hawkins. Hodges was Andy Hawkins, the guy I knew years ago. Andy Hodges. He is from Warren, Arkansas, and he was a high school quarterback there in the mid-'90s.
Okay.
And a graduate of UCA, and he's a writer.
There you
So
go. There's your answer.
He is a real person. He's not some made-up name.
He is a real person. Darren DeLoach says whining about officiating is a loser's mentality, but gee whiz, this is getting a bit ridiculous. Our basketball team is accumulating fouls at an alarming rate while not getting the same in return. What on earth is going on?
Look, it's not so much to me the fouls that have been called. I start noticing when the other team doesn't get fouls called. Like, let's go to that Baylor game. It wasn't that Arkansas just got, it was fairly evenly called in the first half. So when it's around 10 fouls to 11 fouls in the first half, and then you end up with a 7-1 disadvantage for Arkansas 5 minutes into the second half, you start wondering, okay, both teams are playing aggressive defense. Why is one being called for a foul and the other not? And I challenge anybody to go back and take a look at the video, the second half of that Baylor game, and tell me it was called the same way on both ends. It was not. And I made this point on Twitter, and I'll make it here. I have one of my three grandsons plays for a 5th grade team from Shiloh Christian that is in this AAO, Arkansas Athletes Outreach. It's a basketball league.
Okay.
And they were playing their last game Friday morning before the Baylor game. Baylor game started at 3. This game was 11 o'clock or whatever. So I go with my wife over there to watch this game. It's a bunch of 5th graders out there running around. And what I noticed almost immediately was that the refs, these 2 volunteer refs, were getting every call correct. I didn't disagree with anything they did. And they were having to work because little 5th graders make mistakes. They travel with the basketball. They go over and back. You know.
They double dribble.
They double dribble. They foul a lot.
Yeah.
But what I noticed was they were calling fouls when there was an advantage gained by a foul. Didn't call foul if it was an incidental contact. They were just using really good judgment. And I also noticed this: when a kid fouled, ref blows a whistle. The kid's coach is yelling at him, hey, I told you do this instead of doing that. That's why you got the whistle. So he's explaining, he's not yelling at the referee. He's telling his kid out on the floor, you got whistled for a foul because you did this. So it's a teaching tool, right?
I love
the
that.
parents aren't complaining. They're just sitting there. Now, what I noticed, for instance, was my grandson, Athen, he tried to steal the ball at one point and got called for a foul. And I agreed with it.
Yeah.
It looked like he didn't do it right. But later in the game, he reached in and tied the ball up, and the ball went back to his team. And I thought, hey, that was a clean tie up there. And that's the way they called it. So I'm sitting there thinking, I don't disagree with anything that I've seen here. And I was just and I just was amazed. These guys did a great job.
Yeah.
Then I go and come back here, and I'm watching the Baylor game, and I'm looking at this stuff, and I'm going, how is it that these guys that are getting paid all this money to coach, college basketball can do all of this stuff that looks so wrong, and these volunteer refs can get it all right?
Yeah.
What is going on here? This does not make any sense. And I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought about it. Went home that night, and it hit me. You know what was different about that? Those volunteer refs weren't being yelled at by anybody. Nobody was putting pressure on them. They were just letting them do their job. You take college refs, everybody's yelling at them. The fans are yelling at them. The 2 coaches are yelling at them. Players are getting mad. Everybody's getting mad. When people get mad at you, you get emotional yourself.
Yeah.
You may not want to, but you do. And you make emotional decisions instead of logical decisions. And I think this basically is why officiating on the college level, and it's probably that same way in the NBA or whatever, I think this is what happens. It's just the pressure that you put on these guys. Because I saw right up, clear, right in front of my face, what happens when you don't put pressure on referees. You just let them do their job. They do the job correctly.
Yeah. Well, there was a viewer that when I kind of tweeted out this weekend that replied to me and was asking about the officiating, and he was showing examples of studies that they've done, like Harvard-level studies on how the crowd influences refereeing and how home crowds can influence it as well, more so than away crowds and things like that. And it was just so interesting to read that they've done the studies on it.
Little things like they missed a call, and Musselman got mad in the first half. They missed a call. He complained they gave him a tee.
Yeah.
Okay. Arkansas goes on like an 11-0 run or something at that point. So then you go into halftime, and it switches all the way back around again.
It does.
You got to. I think those refs went in there and evaluated what they did. Wait a minute. Baylor was ahead. Now Arkansas is ahead by 6. Maybe we didn't handle this right. Come on, let's get back up here and start calling this.
But they called it so evenly in the first half. They called it so evenly.
Maybe they reacted back in the other direction because of that 11-0 run, which came after. Maybe they backed off after the technical. Okay, we gave this guy a technical. Well, let's don't do anything else to make him mad again, and we'll have to kick him out. There's just these things happen during the course of a game, and I think it influences how referees react.
Yeah,
it does. It's not always for the home team. Sometimes it can be for the road team.
Yeah.
But it's not just fans in the way they react. I think it's what coaches say. I think it's what players. You'll never convince me that when Anthony Black at Vanderbilt came back out there to shoot those free throws and did that crying motion, that didn't impact the way he got the game got called from that point. They didn't give him a technical. They just didn't give Arkansas any calls after that at all.
Yeah.
So I think what happens.
I think you're right, and you have some studies that back you up. Billy Barber asked in the same kind of talk here, talking about officiating. Do you believe calls in the SEC games is the reason the football team and basketball team seem to do much better in NCAA non-conference games and in tournaments?
Well, you're talking about two different sports, and you have to make a distinction there. So let's start with football. The reason you're going to win most of your non-conference games in football is because your teams you're playing in non-conference generally aren't as good. That's not always the case.
You're scheduling.
I mean, Arkansas had one team. This was an unusual non-conference schedule because you played Cincinnati and you played BYU
and Liberty
Liberty was pretty good.
Who was all ranked,
Most of the time you don't play teams like that in your non-conference game, and that's why your non-conference records are going to be better. Also, most of the time you're playing those games at home, and you're going to have a little bit of an advantage with the officiating at home. The only neutral type thing in football would be your bowl games. I think you do have more neutral type officiating in a bowl game in which there's a neutral atmosphere. It's not for one team or the other. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win that game. Bowl games are kind of weird. For years and years, Arkansas had a horrible bowl record. Frank Boyle, for all of his success, did not have a lot of success in bowl games, even though he won the last bowl game he ever coached. But lately, Arkansas has had success, pretty good success in bowl games. But I think here's what I think happens in bowl games. Most of the time, when you have a bowl game, you've got a team that's really glad to be in that game. Maybe they kind of got upgraded a little bit to get there, and then you got a team that didn't want to be there. They think they deserved a better bowl. The best example of that would be the 2000 Cotton Bowl. Texas thought they were better than to be in that bowl game with Arkansas. They felt like it was an inferior opponent. Plus, they didn't like going to Dallas for a bowl game because they go there every year to play that Texas OU game. It wasn't a good bowl destination. It wasn't a good bowl trip for them. It was just a bus ride up the road. They'd much rather go to a place like, Miami or somewhere. And they played like it. They played like, oh, we don't want to be in this bowl. Arkansas was like, we get a chance to play Texas. We hate them. And they just beat the snot out of them. So sometimes what happens in a bowl game has to do with the circumstances of the two teams rather than whether one's really better than the other. So there are just so many different things in football. Now, basketball is a more conventional thing. It's real simple. You play a lot of tournaments. And you play two types of tournaments. You play December tournaments, and then you play the NCAA tournament or your conference tournament. Those are all neutral site games. Your officiating is going to be more even in those, and therefore, most of the time what happens in those games is the best team wins. Not always, but it's more explainable. So that all depends on whether you've got a good basketball program. Traditionally, Arkansas has had good basketball, so they've tended to win games like that more often than they don't. But when you get into conference play, come on, it's home and home. It's road. Everybody knows how hard it is to win on the road. I don't care where you're going. It's hard to win at Vanderbilt. You'd think, well, that wouldn't be hard to win there. It's hard to win at Ole Miss, anywhere like that. So the regular basketball season really is more predicated on home and away. Then you get back into your neutral type things, and it's how good a team are you. So I don't think you just can't. The two, football and basketball, are not comparable as to why you would have a better record in non-conference games or tournament games as opposed to conference games.
Yeah, and you don't believe the calls in it are going certain ways because it's conference versus non-conference.
Well, I think it's home. It's what we explained before. I think it's home and away. It's harder to win in conference games. I think fans get more intense.
Yep.
You know, you go to a place like Auburn and their fans are going crazy, which we saw them do, even though that was all over the students weren't still back. They showed up early, and if you remember that game, they were all down there by the court.
Yeah.
And so it's more intense, and it's just harder to win a game like that.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one. Hot Dogger says, it seems like there isn't much movement on the coaching carousel in college basketball like there is in football. Am I wrong in comparing the turnover ratios for basketball versus football?
I think there is some difference, maybe not as much as you might think, but I think the difference is the money that's generated by the two sports. Most schools still get the great majority of the income they derive for the total athletic department budget from football. That is from live gate, from donations, and from TV revenue. It's way above anything you get in basketball. I'm not saying they don't get money from basketball, but there's no comparison. So because most of your money comes from football, you're going to be much more careful about who you have as your football coach. You're going to tend to replace those coaches if you sense things are going wrong. You want to keep your fans happy. If you want to keep those season tickets and donations coming in, but you've got a fan base that's clearly like at Auburn when they clearly wanted their coach out, last year, and he ends up gone before the season's over. That's catering to your fans.
And the boosters too. You know?
And the boosters. Well, which are your fans.
Which are your fans, yeah.
So, you just don't see that hardly ever happening. When was the last time you saw a basketball coach fired before the season was over? They'll wait till the end of the year, and if they make a change, they make a change. And it's because there's not as much money involved.
Yeah.
That's real simple.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Pig's Feet says, I'm happy for Bay Fall, and I'm not sure what all is included in the process to be a McDonald's All-American in basketball, but how is Layden Blocker not on the roster? Good question.
Yeah, we had to go to our basketball guru, Kevin McPherson, who knows all things basketball, and he covers AAU and high school basketball in this state and knows all that kind of stuff. So we talked to him, and he said basically, what did he say?
He said it was an egregious snub.
He called it an egregious snub, but he did acknowledge that there's a lot of politics involved. I guess with Blocker, what happened was he fell in these rankings.
Yeah.
Who does the rankings?
So ESPN does the rankings.
Yeah, it was ESPN
and that's what kind of they look at when they're going off. There's tons of rankings out there, like 24/7.
So he dropped from what, like 21st to 24th or something?
Yeah, 21st to 26th is what I think he dropped
in the ESPN rankings.
Yeah.
And then that influenced whether, but then Kevin also pointed out that there were players ranked below him that got in, and he hinted that some of it was political.
Yeah. Like one of them being, LeBron James's son. If it makes sense, you would want LeBron James's son to be in the McDonald's All-American game, because what did we just talk about?
It's
for publicity, for money. I mean.
So here's the bottom line on this. Blocker will have every opportunity his freshman year next season, to prove all these people wrong.
Yeah.
And if it motivates him, more power to him,
Yeah.
It wouldn't bother me if he got mad and played his tail off and had a great freshman year.
Yeah.
And we've seen being a McDonald's All-American doesn't automatically guarantee you're going to have a great year.
No, he could be just as good without that title. Kevin says, I heard the excuses for the miserable performance of the women's basketball team at South Carolina. What is the excuse for the at-home performance versus Alabama? The excuses, the time for excuses should be over.
And since that question, they've also lost Ole Miss at home, so we got to include that. Look, first thing I would point out is that both Alabama and Ole Miss, they're not bad basketball teams. They're good basketball teams. They're not great. They're not up there with LSU and South Carolina, but they're good upper-tier SEC basketball schools. So it's not like they lost to somebody near the bottom. Those two games had some things in common as you watched them. Arkansas lacked focus. They seemed to fall asleep sometimes on defense, just give somebody a wide open layup. They seem to make mental errors with the ball. Sometimes you'd have, your guards out there looking and holding the ball like this. Somebody just comes up and takes it out of their hands, or you're dribbling into a situation, you get stuck, you turn around and try to get rid of it, the ball gets stolen from you, a lot of turnovers. That happened in both of those games. Now, the problem with which I thought was a much more questionable situation, was the Ole Miss game, which was Sunday night, because I was at that game. The thing that was hard to figure out is how you end up with a 19-point lead at halftime, and you had a tremendous, I think 21 to outscored them 21 to 4 in the second quarter, and you were playing defense, you're scoring on offense, and then it was like somebody flipped a switch in the third quarter, and you just saw that lead start dropping from the beginning. And if you go back and look at it, they just had all kinds of issues. They had rebounding problems. They again, the lack of focus. They didn't look energetic. They looked confused. It just felt like Ole Miss in particular was just outplaying them, just playing a lot harder.
Yeah, for sure. In the second half, they did.
I've said this before and I'll say it again. A women's basketball crowd is different. If that had been a men's game, you would have had people so mad they would have been storming out of there. They'd been so mad at Musselman. They'd have been mad at the team. I didn't sense a lot of that. People that come to women's basketball games just sort of watch and go, okay, well, we didn't win. I had to leave. You had to come pick me up.
I did, yeah.
So I'm waiting to go up on the elevator, and there's people starting to leave, but they were just saying stuff. They were blaming it on the refs and saying, oh, I guess we just didn't win. There was nobody that was really angry. So it's a different kind of a thing. The issue is whether or not, and there's two schools of thought on this with Mike Neighbors. One of them is that, and I've talked to people that have different views on this, that I trust, that know what's going on. One of the views is that he's got talent finally, that this is the best talent he's had and the best size he's had, but it's young talent. And the best part of this team is ahead of it because he's still got a lot of really talented young players that stay on the bench a lot because they make mistakes. And they'll be better next year. And they also say don't give up on this year because there's still plenty of time left. They think they'll make the NCAA tournament and do fine. So we'll see. And then you've got the other school of thought, and I talked with one of them. I think you may have been a part of that. Did you? No, I can't remember who was with
me or Alyssa?
Might have been Alyssa. We're talking to this guy, and he was basically saying that Mike Neighbors is too soft.
Yeah, I was there for that.
Okay,
yeah, I was there for that.
He's a finesse coach.
Yeah.
He doesn't tend to chew people out. He tends to be positive.
Yes.
And he tends to be that way in press conference for sure. I don't know what he's like around the team because I'm not there, but he's definitely not somebody that goes into a press conference and starts pounding on the table. Or we've seen Musselman, when he gets mad, he kind of sulks and kind of wants to hide from the camera. Neighbors just kind of takes it in stride, and he talks about this hurts, but he doesn't act like it hurts.
No.
See, if you went in there and go, this really hurts, oh man, then you're going, okay, he feels, but when he just says, yeah, this hurts, that's his personality, I think. But there's two schools of thought, and it's like anything else I say. You can believe what you want. You can believe the guy that says they're going to be better next year and that this year's not over and they still have more talent. It's just young talent. They make mistakes and they're not all on the same page yet. And then you got the other guy that says Mike Neighbors is too soft and he won't kick these girls in the rear end and get them going. So which is it?
It's got to be one of them. We have another women's basketball question kind of talking about this, the same lines as this. Dr. Starks asked, care to address the complete lack of rebounding from the women's team now?
We got a question about the South Carolina game last week, and there was a tremendous rebounding. It was one of the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And that was explainable because, first of all, South Carolina, they go 6'7", 6'6", 6'5", 6'4". They've got some big girls on that team. And they're very aggressive. And Arkansas was also leg weary going into that game. You could see them playing pretty well early, and then they just kind of quickly went downhill because they had to go and play LSU at LSU on the road. That's the number 3 team in the country, and they took them to the wire, lost in the last minute of play. And then had all these travel problems, and so they go from Baton Rouge, have to turn around and go immediately over to South Carolina, which is not a short trip, and they get there and hit the ground, and all of a sudden they got to play a game, and you could just see them running out of steam. So the rebounding disadvantage was a lot more explainable in that game than it was the one Sunday night against Ole Miss. Because Ole Miss has one player that's 6'4", the rest of them are shorter than anybody Arkansas has got. And Arkansas has a player that's 6'5", then they've got a 6'4", and they got two 6'3s, and these guys have a 6'4", and then it goes down to 6'2". So what happened there? I don't know. It was a 20 they had 20 more rebounds. And what I noticed that was really odd was that Ole Miss would go to the free throw line and miss the first shot on a 1-and-1, or if they had two, miss the second one, and they get the rebound and get another second chance point or 2 points there. They kept doing that over and over again. Slip inside and get a rebound, sometimes go over somebody and get a rebound. Now some people, and I met a lady on the outside the elevator that was saying that was the refs weren't calling some of those fouls that were fouls. And yeah, if you go back and look, there were some fouls that could have been called by Ole Miss being aggressive and getting some of those rebounds and in some of the block shots that they got. But my view of that game was that one was much worse loss than the South Carolina thing, which was explainable, understandable. I think the loss against Ole Miss was worse than the loss against Alabama. Yeah. Because in the Ole Miss game, you're up by 19 points. There's just no reason for losing that game ever.
You can't blow a 19-point
They just
lead.
looked like, somebody told me, a guy came out of the stands and he was leaving. He said they just stopped playing. And I couldn't disagree with him on that.
I can't either. Tim Tino says, and this is a fun question, it's so close to baseball season. DVH has said he has the best pitching core he has ever had. Is that true, or is he just using coach speak?
No. If there's a coach that you wouldn't associate with coach speak, it would be Dave Nedhorn. I mean, this guy always speaks his mind. He's not a coach speak guy. So I believe him when he says that, and he's not the only one saying it, because a lot of these preseason publications are when they mention Arkansas, they mention the pitching staff. Now, he's basically got 5 guys, in my opinion, that could all make the 3-man starting rotation on the weekend. You got Jackson Wiggins, Hagan Smith, Will McIntyre, Brady Tigert, and Zach Morris. Any of those guys could be part of a good 3-man rotation. And what Dave Van Horn said when he was talking about that, he said, what that does is it gives you an extra, whoever you decide is not a part of that rotation, that gives you 2 guys out of your bullpen that in a certain week, as you get maybe midway through the season and you got maybe one of your 3 starters starting to have be a little arm weary, you can set him down for a week or 2 and plug the other guy in there, and you're not going to be hurt by that. He said that gives you tremendous flexibility, and he said I haven't been able to do that very often. But you've also, and that also gives you 2 extra long relief bullpen guys. If you've got 2 guys that are good enough to be a starting pitcher, they can go long relief. So that gives you 2 long relief guys. Then they've got a transfer kid out of the transfer portal that's good enough to be a starter, but it's probably a bullpen guy. And then they got 2 JUCOs that are good bullpen people. So he's got, what he ended up saying is he got the deepest bullpen he's ever had. And then you have to throw in a couple of 3 freshmen that showed some promise last year as freshmen that are going to pitch more this year. So he's just, I mean, he's loaded with the pitching. Now, again, it's like everything we say. They still have to do it.
Yeah.
So we're going to find out in a hurry, because right off the bat, they play Texas, TCU, and Oklahoma State.
Ooh.
That's pretty tough opening weekend.
Yeah, I would say so. That's going to be a real
We'll find out right off the bat about that pitching staff.
It's going to be a real good test for them that opening weekend, and Alyssa and I will be there as well, getting to watch that live and in person. And our final question of the show is going to be from Marty Bird's Proxy. And they want to know, do you have any stories of interest from the old press row? Wasn't there a dust-up with Gerald Meyers once?
I assume by press row he means the old press row at Barnhill. And there was a situation there. I can't give you the exact year, but Gerald Meyers he never liked Barnhill, because he felt like the officials were too much influenced by the crowd, and he didn't like it. So he gets really mad in this one game. And he's over there yelling, and now look, he's across the court from us. Press row is on the other side of the court from the coaches, but he's yelling, and we can hear him yelling over there. And they nailed him with 3 technicals, end up getting 3 technicals, which is automatic ejection. So he gets ejected. Okay, and the coaches, the visiting locker room at Barnhill was on the northeast side of the court. You went through this hallway and then came around the back, and there was a door underneath the stands that led into that visitor's locker room. So Gerald Meyers goes over there after he's been kicked out. And Grant Hall, who I've known for the whole time I've been here, 47 years, Grant's a curious guy. He always has his little pad, you know. Yeah. And so he decides he's got a story there, so he follows him out around the corner. And he told me this story. He said he gets around the corner and Gerald can't get in the door because it's locked. So he's trying to yank on the door and he's all mad and there's no way for him to get in, and he's yelling to somebody to go find the SID who has the key, the sports information director, let him in this locker room. So Grant thinks, great, because I've got a built-in 3 or 4 minutes where I can talk to him. So he's talking to him and asking him, you know, what is he mad about? What does he think happened? And he's like, I hate this place. You know, referees are never any good here, and I can't wait till they need to tear this place down. I don't want to ever coach here again. And so that's that story. Now I got my own Gerald Meyers stories.
Okay, all right, I'm ready.
I actually grew up outside of Lubbock and was going to Texas Tech games when I was probably in the 5th or 6th grade. And I've said this before, Texas Tech has the best basketball fans in the old Southwest Conference and now the Big 12. I'm telling you, they're having a terrible year this year. I don't think they've won a conference game, but they fill a 15,000-seat arena up almost every night.
They're intense.
And they had a 10,500-seat arena back in those days in the 50s when everybody else in the Southwest Conference, Arkansas was like 4,500. Texas had a 4,000-seat Gregory Gymnasium, you know. And Tech had this brand new arena. It was called the Lubbock Municipal Coliseum. It was big, it was fancy. And Gerald Meyers played for them. And I remember being 6th grade or 7th grade, somewhere in that, going and watching him play, and he was just a sourpuss. He just walked around looking like somebody had just shot his grandmother.
Oh.
And he was out there on the court dribbling. He's mad at everybody. So I never really had a good feeling about this guy. Now, I will tell you that once he became their basketball coach, as somebody in the media that had to deal with him every year when he came in here, I hated it. Because here's what used to happen. A team would come in, say, on a Friday, because they're playing a game on Saturday against Arkansas, because they're going to have a shoot-around. So we go over there, everybody in the local media, and you'd go there and you'd be standing around. You'd go up to their sports information director for basketball who was with the team. Hey, can we talk to Coach Meyers? Or whoever the coach was. Only with them, the basketball SID would say, I don't know. There he is over there. You can ask him. Well,
okay.
What? Because he knew he knew what he was. He wasn't going to talk to us, but he wasn't going to tell us he wouldn't. He just let you try to do it on your own. And if you tried to approach him, he'd see you coming and he'd take off. I've chased that guy all the way around the court 3 times trying to talk to him. And you finally give up. He's just a jerk, a total jerk. But the killer is, and I'm prejudiced and I admit it, he fired Mike Leach. Now, we just got through having what? A whole week of Mike Leach tributes. Everybody loves Mike Leach. What a great thing he was for college football. Yeah. Not to Gerald Meyers.
Wow.
He fired the guy. Mike Leach is the only Texas Tech football coach ever to go to a bowl game every year. He took them to a bowl game every year. He beat Texas. They hardly ever beat Texas. He beat Texas when Texas was #1. In Lubbock, it was the greatest win in the history of the school. And Gerald Meyers fired him. And it's no surprise to me that Gerald Meyers, when he retired as athletic director, doesn't live in Lubbock anymore.
Oh.
He moved to Dallas. Because if I lived in Lubbock and I bumped into him at the supermarket, I would tell him what I thought of him. Oh, fired Mike Leach, huh? What do you have to say for yourself now, the most popular coach in the history of college football that everybody loves? You didn't like him. You fired him, and then you wouldn't pay him his money.
Mike, I want this grocery store meetup to happen just so you can tell him how you feel.
He's in Dallas somewhere.
Oh, we'll bring you to Dallas and we'll try.
I won't go to Dallas just to find him. I won't.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week's Ask Mike. We'll see you next Monday to answer more of your questions.